Good morning. So this video is about fire, about tragedy, about when you are going through an extreme traumatic experience, like something that changed your whole world point, your whole everything. I'm talking about that and how God uses that to call you, to invite you in the mission of how Jesus Christ, when he was walking here in this earth, how he said, pick up your cross and follow me. If you want to be my disciples, pick up your cross and follow me, and he gave us an example of how to live our life. So this video is going to be about your calling. And I'm not talking about trials. I'm not talking about just little trials here and there, that build up your faith, little misfortunes here and there. No, I'm talking about, this video is going to be about fire, putting things into perspective to break the bondage of being trapped in a certain victim mentality, and changing that to a victory, and changing that to being victorious, to accept God's calling, to accept that invitation. Okay, so that's what this is going to be about. I don't know if it's going to be long. So when you go through something, and I don't mean just little things, like I said, when you go through something that changed your whole world, I'm talking about someone in your life that died. I'm talking like whatever it is that you put your whole hopes and love and devotion to, when you get that thing taken away from you, whether it's your health, whatever that is, that was your whole world, like your everything, except, I'm not talking about like besides God, of course, like your whole everything. When you get that one thing taken away from you, it's gonna break you. You're gonna be broken into millions of pieces. That's what I'm talking about. When you go through that, and it's gonna be a form of injustice, it's not gonna be a form of justice. Because listen, we go through things that we bring on ourselves. Like we literally, and this is like a conscience thing, right? We bring on ourselves. Like, let's say that we do something bad, and then there's ramifications of that bad thing, and then we suffer because of it. And at the end of the day, we have no one else to blame but ourselves, and we're like, yeah, I messed up, I shouldn't have done that. It is what it is. Move on forward. Learning my lesson. No, I'm talking about injustice. I'm talking about when you go through something and you're like, that's not fair. That's not fair. How is this fair? And then you're so hurt, and then you feel so broken, and you're like overcome with grief, and to the point where your whole body hurts. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a traumatic experience. And I don't mean, like I said, trials, because sometimes some people confuse trials that build up your faith for a traumatic, like a huge event in your life that changed everything, like 360, like it just changed everything. And from that event, you had to decide whether you're going to keep on going in life, or you're going to stay down on the ground and die, basically. And I don't mean die like physically, like, you know what I mean? I mean like die inside and not have any hope. That's what I'm talking about. So when you go through something like that, it's an invitation. It's an invitation from God for you to accept his help, for you to accept his comfort, for you to allow him to go through the fire with you, because we are going to all go through the fire. Everyone that's God's children, right? God's child is going to go through some situation that's going to be the defining moment in their life, that they're either going to give up, and it's going to be an injustice. It's going to be something that you don't think it's fair, and you're either going to give up, you're going to lay down in the ground and blame everyone, and you're not going to rise. Or you're going to use that injustice and lay down on the ground for a little bit, however long it takes you, and really process the hurt and the pain, and trust God that he's going to turn it around for your greater good, and then accept the invitation for him to walk in the fire with you. And how does it look like for him to walk in the fire with you? It looks like you accepting, like, God, and I'm just going to give an example. God, this what happened to me is not fair. This is an injustice. And from anybody's point of view, it reminds me of Job. And from anybody's point of view, I don't understand why this is happening to me. This is very hurtful. And when I really think and I process my emotions and I process all my hurt and pain, even though this traumatic experience, I can blame these people that were involved in it. Ultimately, God, I'm mad at you. Ultimately, God, I'm hurt at you. Like my feelings, my emotions that I'm feeling inside, and everything that is coming up to my mind, it all comes back to you, God. And I'm mad at you. And when you do that, you're being honest and you're being transparent. And you're taking away the power from people. Yes, of course, you're not going to trust those people again, right? That were involved in that tragedy, right? But you're taking the power away from the people around you that hurt you, that were involved in that tragedy. And you're giving it back to God, just like how Job did. When Job went through all those things, he had his whole family taken away from him. He had his own money taken away. He had everything taken away from him, to the point where like his wife thought that his breath was repulsive. Okay. When he went through that, like kids even laughed at him. Okay. And he was such an honorable man, and he was actually a righteous man. Okay. So when he went through that, he put all his hurt and his emotions back on God. Like he put it back on God. And I know it's so like taboo for us to be like, I can't blame God, because ultimately at the end of the day, like my sinful nature was the cause of this. And I'm not saying to blame God. I'm saying to trust God with your hurt, to trust God with your emotions, and to be honest like a little child and be like, God, I am hurt and I am angry, and even though these people were involved, but I blame you, because why didn't you protect me? I'm hurt. Why did you allow this to happen? You have all the power in this whole world and the universe, right? You're the creator. But you allowed this to happen, God. Why? And why to me, when you know I love you? Have that honest conversation with God. And he will answer you. He will answer you. He will show you. I'm not saying to just like be like to have anger and resentment towards the Lord and turn away from him and be like, done, bye. No, I'm saying be honest. Put the hurt feelings where they really belong, right? So today in society, like when we love someone the most, or when we love something the most, and I'm not talking about, our Lord, but when we love something or someone the most, and that someone or that something betrays us, or that something gets taken away from us, what emotion are you feeling? Anger, right? You're angry. You are angry. And why are you angry? Because you love that thing more than anything. And you're angry because you're like, no, this is not fair, right? So when we as people love something more than everything, right? And that one thing betrays us, hurts us, or gets taken away from us, we get mad at it, right? But we're called to love God more than anyone and anything. And if we love God more than anyone or anything, and we trust him more than anyone or anything, then basically our hurt comes from God. Basically, the feelings of betrayal that we have comes from God. Like we're going to be like, God, you weren't there for me because I loved you more than all these people. I loved you more than all these things. I trusted you more than I trust anyone here, or even my own ability or anything. Yet, God, why wasn't that enough? And why did you allow this to happen? You have power over everything, everyone in the universe. Why did you allow this to happen? God, I trusted you. I'm hurt. I feel betrayed. And it's in that conversation, in those raw emotions where you're like, I blame you. God, I blame you. Because these people don't know any better. Forgive them, for they don't know what they do. Forgive me, Lord God, because I am a sinner. But God, I blame you. When you have that honest conversation with the Lord, right? Because you could be in denial that you're feeling that way when a tragedy happens, right? You could be in denial. You could be like, no, 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 no. It's this person and that person, and you could just make it to the point where it's just very. Or you could be honest, because God already knows how you feel. He already knows how you think. He already knows everything. And again, this video is about like a tragedy. I'm not talking about little trials. When you're honest with God and you trust God with how you're feeling and you're completely transparent, right? You're just completely transparent with him. He will use that and he will comfort you. He will comfort you. He will comfort you, and he will invite you to invite him into your circumstance, into that tragedy, and he will be with you in the fire. And it's in the fire, guys, when we are in the fire, that we get reborn. And I'm not talking about like being baptized. Please get baptized, please. I'm talking about when we are being reborn in the fire, when God is in there with us and he's stripping away every single thing that doesn't serve us in the mission of that we're being called, like the mission of basically being like who he is, right? When we are in that fire and he invites us to invite him, because he's a gentleman, and we invite him in that fire, in that tragedy, he will be there with us. And it reminds me of the story of what was it, the three men that were in the fire, that someone threw them in the fire, Meshach, something, and Abednego. They were in the fire, and then literally these three men were in the fire, and they were like, because I think it was like the king or something, they threw them in the fire to burn them or something like that. And then they seen four people, and then they said, oh, one looked like an angel, but it was God, because God was in the fire with them, and they were dancing in the fire. So that gives us an example to accept, to invite God in that fire, and then to allow him to be there with us in that fire while we get redefined into his presence of how he calls us to be, for him to use that for our greater glory. Because if we don't do that, then we're gonna either die out basically, or we're gonna get stronger, one or the other. You're either gonna blame God and stay resentful of God and everyone around you, and not ever, be who God calls you to be, or you're going to accept how you're feeling, give it to God, be honest, transparent, accept that invitation, and allow him to be there in the fire with you. Acknowledge that you are being stripped away of every single little thing. Acknowledge that it's not fair what you're going through, but some way, somehow, God's going to turn it around for his greater glory, for your greater glory. And then that's when you are literally a different person. Because when you still invite God in that situation, God will be there with you, because it's not fair. Just like with Job, it was not fair what Job was going through, right? And what was his friends telling him? His friends were like, you must have done something wrong. Like, you must have done something wrong to bring this on to yourself. Like, what did you do? And Job was like, I didn't do anything. Like, but when you read the book of Job, you get to hear his raw emotions to God and how he felt about his life. But the key point is that he never stopped talking to God. And he wasn't resentful of everybody around him. He could have been like, I am so mad at my wife for leaving me and thinking my breath is repulsive. I am so mad at these people that killed my children. I am so mad at, my servants leaving me. I'm so mad at these little kids for laughing at me. But he didn't. He put his whole hurt and his whole pain, because he had perspective. He knew people had no power, no anything over him, because God has to authorize it. So he put all that hurt and all that pain back on God, And even though in the book of Job, God's all like, you don't understand my ways. You know, you don't understand. You know? God still said Job was right. God still said he was right for coming to him, because Job gave all his raw emotions to God. He trusted him. Like a child trusts a parent when they're hurt. They're like, this is what you did to me, and da-da-da-da-da, you know? Because they trust their parents to protect them, right? So just like that, God is our Father, right? And when we trust him, we need to also trust him with our hurt and be so honest to the point where that we're like Job. And God will turn that all around. And then he will be walking with us. He'll be dancing with us in the fire. So with that, when he is with us in the fire, we are being reborn to something new. We are given a new birth. Because when we're being stripped away of everything, and we're still choosing, right, free will, we're still choosing to follow God and have faith that some way, somehow, he's going to turn this all around and use it for his and our greater glory. He will, because it will be done, you know, in accordance to your belief. And in that, you will be new. You'll be like a new person, where you're like, you know what, I don't understand why this is happening to me, but I trust you, God. And even though I feel like I cannot forgive you right now, and I know I shouldn't feel like it's your fault, because I know it's my fault some way, somehow, or maybe, I don't know, God, but I'm trusting you with this, and I'm being honest with you, and I love you, Lord, and please help me, and walk with me in the fire, God. Dance with me in the fire. Help me dance. Move my feet to dance. Dance with me in the fire, just like how you did for those 3 men in the Bible, you know? And he will do it. And I know this video is long. And with that, because that's an injustice, right? When this is a tragedy and an injustice. So we have that choice. We have a decision to make, whether we are going to accept that invitation to be called and to use that tragedy for his greater glory. Because when we allow him to be in the fire with us, what's happening is that he's healing us, because we're trusting him, and our faith is being built to a whole nother level. And we're being stripped away of our old self that relies on this world, and we will rely on him. When we accept that invitation, we are going to be able to be a helpful utensil to someone else that went through that same tragedy. And that's your calling. That's how God turns it around. You know, another thing is, if, you know, you do things that, you know, that you're good at, your skills and whatever, like, you know, that how you make financial means, sometimes they go together, sometimes they don't. But when God calls you to something, it's an invitation. It's a way to turn that tragedy around and to heal others, and in return to heal you. God will heal you through this. When you are helping others, God will continue to heal you. So we have that choice to accept that invitation or reject it and lay in bitterness. So one or the other. To be made new, or to shrink down and basically become stubborn and have cold hearts and be bitter. So it's an invitation, guys. Wanted to do this video, and I know it's super long, but I love you guys. Bye.